First up is approval of the agenda. If I could make a note that the youth center report is not on the printed copy. Delane added it just a short time ago. Jeremy had it all done and hit submit button, but for some reason it didn't take, but it's been added this morning, and it'll be the last item under committee items. It'll be, I'm listing it as L. So with that slight change, unless there's any other changes, if we could have a motion for the agenda.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion passed. Public comment. Hello, public. Roger Gady.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Roger Gady, and first I'd like to say good morning, but also I'd like to thank the committees and the previous commissions for appointing me to previously to the Agriculture Preservation. I have had my youth growing years through high school were spent in agricultural areas, and looking back, I can't think of a better preparation for understanding how our country works and the value of especially personnel effort, and especially for family farms, although those are tending to diminish, but the operations are still there, and they are indeed providing valuable resources to our country. Many surveys that people participate in indicate they would like their home surroundings to have open spaces, open areas. I cannot think of a better way to provide those open areas and open spaces than by preserving agricultural land. And certainly in some areas and at some times there has been intense pressure to take the agricultural land and divert it to other purposes. Some of it's been done that way, and it may not ever be usable again as agricultural land, and it's probably not serving the entire purpose of the next thought that came along for the land. And I had the opportunity to go on the Ultimate Farm Tour, and they had a number of meetings afterwards. That was an opportunity to go to states and operations that had incorporated agriculture preservation. One operation we stopped at was merely 45 minutes from the White House. And it was a very successful, it was a dairy farm at that time. The owner of the farm was not sure whether he'd stay in dairy farming, but recognizing that there was intense amount of home building and so forth, he thought maybe if the dairy farming wasn't going to work out in the long run, then they'd convert over to raising landscape and nursery stock. Obviously then I was able to observe the benefits of farmland preservation and learn some of the techniques. And that provided me an opportunity to help with developing out Jackson County's requirements for farmland preservation. And I find that we still have an opportunity in our county to preserve some really important agricultural operations, and as time goes on, there may be other types of operations that could be incorporated. So I'm a sincere and deep believer in agriculture and land preservation, and I appreciate your time.
Good morning. I'm Glenn Remington. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to stop by for a minute. For the Grand River Watershed Council, you have my application before you. You'll maybe note it's handwritten and dated Friday. I would like to make note that by way of the website, I completed the application and actually submitted it on May 28th. For reasons unknown, it didn't come out the other side into your offices. Or staff offices, I should clarify. I just wanted to reiterate that I did submit by the timeline, and I have a copy here. I'd like to, with your permission, provide. Secondarily, I have before me the US EPA situation report from the oil spill in the Grand River, and I'd just like to quickly read a couple of excerpts from it. The spill was initially identified on Sunday evening. The Jackson Fire Department, Jackson Department of Public Works deployed sorbent boom into outfall. On Monday, DPW vacuumed out a manhole in Lions Park and switched out the booms. On Tuesday, the manhole was vacuumed again, but it was estimated that over 400 gallons of oil, not oily water, 400 gallons of oil was collected into 3,000 gallons of oil and water. The sorbent boom remained in place for any additional sheen. Moving on Wednesday evening, OSC Edwards met with the superintendent at the wastewater treatment plant. The storm had moved through early in the morning, estimated at 1.5 to 2 inches of rainfall in short duration. Substantial plug of oil moved through the storm system into the Grand River. The sorbent booms were in place, but it was not enough to contain the spill due to the quantity increased velocity of flow. The City of Jackson then contacted a local cleanup contractor for assistance. I added the word then because they hadn't apparently previously. Moving on, EPA and START contractor conducted downstream survey to identify oil and sheen distribution amounts and identify potential boom deployment locations to isolate the operational area. Lions Park is approximately 1.5 miles upstream from the wastewater treatment plant. EPA confirmed heavy sheen and moderate oil globule distribution at the wastewater treatment plant vehicle bridge over the Grand River and utilized this location to deploy hardened sorbent boom. Wastewater treatment plant to Parnell Bridge is approximately 1.8 miles downstream from the Lions Park. Heavy sheen distribution and moderate oil globules both upstream and downstream of this bridge was identified. This location was utilized to deploy hard boom and sorbent boom. Maple Grove Road Bridge, approximately 5.6 miles downstream from Lions Park and 3.8 miles downstream from Parnell. Light sheen and light oil globules were visible but frequently greatly reduced from the Parnell Street location. The width of the Grand River at this location is estimated at approximately 300 feet wide with inundated floodplains along both banks. This section of the river has a width approximately 3 to 4 times longer than upstream survey areas. I would like to reiterate that the resume I've previously provided, I've been in the facility engineering business since the 1980s with an environmental management focus. For the years between 1988 and the mid-90s, I specifically worked as an industrial hygienist with an environmental engineering firm. We did groundwater cleanups with oil, hazmat situations, all sorts of testing, and especially EPA compliance focused DOT with hazardous materials on the road. As far as I can interpret, a sheen in the river is the minimum reporting requirement to the US EPA. And as far as I can determine, that was already present on the Sunday of the spill and detected by city staff. Also, the reporting requirements to the US EPA is 24 hours. For reasons unknown, apparently it took until Tuesday for the EPA to be contacted. Between Sunday, when the spill was first detected and reported to the proper authorities, and Tuesday, when the EPA showed up, the EPA determined that there was heavy globules in the oil and a thick sheen for miles down the river. Something went seriously wrong with the city's response, adequate assessment of the situation, and adequate response to the situation. I should actually say failed response and failed assessment. I don't want to go too far and make too many accusations, but I think what we really have at the essence here is a training opportunity for the appropriate people to be identified as first responders, have the proper materials on staff, the proper training to deal with these things before we have miles of heavy oil sheen and thick globules down the river. And as far as this potential citizen representative on this board, I would request your support because I'd like to bring a little bit of professional expertise and volunteer my time to try to help toward that training. Thank you very much. And with your permission, I'd like to provide these to the board.
Is that your application?
This is the copy of the May 28 application that I submitted by the website.
We have a motion. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Thank you. The second document is the U.S. EPA report from the U.S. EPA responder to the site that I spoke with the first day they showed up, and then they subsequently filed.
Mr. Remington, you can leave that with the deputy clerk here, and your time has expired. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Good morning. My name is Philip Fierro. I'd like to apply for the Rivershed Council position. I grew up around here. I've lived here all my life. Lived around rivers, lived around lakes, learned to appreciate them. I've spent my adult life working in manufacturers where I've seen things I now understand should not have happened. I also have a horror story. A friend of mine has a home on the riverbank, had 2 cascading ponds. Somebody suggested to him that he fertilized the lawn. The ponds don't exist anymore. They became full of algae. The fish and the wildlife left. That's kind of marred me. I'm very interested in help cleaning up the river, and I have the time and the whatever to dedicate to it, whatever you guys need. I also took the time to read the 165 pages of the update, and find that there's a lot to learn there. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Peter Bormuth. I hadn't got the report from the EPA yet, so Glenn's ahead of me. I wanted to comment that this is the first year in all my years of life in Jackson County that I have not seen a monarch butterfly. And they've always been one of the pleasures of my life. They're like falling fire in the air. And last year I only saw 2. I frequently walk both fields and paddle marshes where there are significant patches of milkweed. They should be present. They're not. I believe we are driving another species to extinction, and just like to make you all aware that one of our fellow travelers on this planet is not coming to Jackson County anymore.
Public comment. Public comment is closed. First up under committee items are the minutes of the May 12th meeting. Did we get it? Motion and support. Any changes or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Appointments. We still have 1 seat open on the Ag Preservation Board for agricultural interest, but we do have 2 other applicants. The first is for the Real Estate or Development Interest member. That's Roger Gady's current seat. He's the applicant for it. Looking for a motion. Motion and support to reappoint Roger Gady. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Name will be forwarded on. 1 commissioner member, it's Dave Lechka's current seat, and Sarah Leitner is the applicant. We have a support and then a motion, okay? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. The Department on Aging Council, Advisory Council is still open. We have no applicants yet. I guess we can continue to advertise. We have the Upper Grand River Watershed Council. We have 3 public member seats and we have 4 applicants. So we'll fill them one at a time. The first spot will be the spot occupied by Jason Moritz, and the applicants are Flip or Philip Fierro, Anthony Rejuezo, Julius Piggott, I believe, and Glenn Remington. Julie?
I'd like to make the motion to move Philip Fierro's name on. I am very impressed that he read all 165 pages of the document. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and support to fill the first spot with Flip Fierro. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Moving on to the second spot, occupied by Anthony Rejuezo, who has reapplied for the spot. We have Anthony left, Julius Piggott, and Glenn Remington. Dave? Okay. Motion and support. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Anthony's name will be forwarded on as well. Lastly, the seat, Patricia Rail, who has not reapplied. We have left Julius Piggott and Glenn Remington. Dave? Okay. Any other nominations? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. All those names will be forwarded on, and I believe that's all we have for appointments. Airport manager. American Asphalt for repairs to the airport aircraft parking ramp. Kent?
Good morning. This first item is to award the bid, the low bidder, to American Asphalt for urgent repairs to a portion of the aircraft parking ramp. This would be immediately north of the restaurant area. And last month, the grant that will pay for this was approved. It's a $30,000 grant, so these bids are under budget. 3 bids were solicited. They had to be MDOT qualified contractors for asphalt, and American Asphalt was the low bid for that at $24,660. And we would, as we have done in the past, pay for this out of the runway match fund and then be reimbursed by MDOT. MDOT always pays their bills, but it's generally about 60 days after we have the expenditure, and we'd like to provide a timely payment to the contractor for this.
Motion and support. Mike, this is approved here at committee, correct? Okay. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Kent Mauer. Mead
The
and Hunt.
next is a contract amendment with Mead and Hunt for construction administration. This has to do with Phase 1 of our snow removal equipment building project, which was the site work and the service road. And there were some additional expenses incurred, had to do with the time that it took to complete this project, and the bulk of the expenses for engineering testing. And this is a routine amendment based on the experience of the construction, and it's paid for by an existing MDOT aeronautics grant, for which we've already paid our match.
Looking for a motion. Motion and support. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Kent. Park semi-annual report. And I think you have a PowerPoint, do you not?
I do, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Now, see if I know how to operate this thing. Adam, am I correct? Pardon? Did you bring it with you? I've got it on a flash drive if you need it. Oh, yeah, plug it in. Okay. Little delay? Oh, it's right here.
First one?
Yep.
Alrighty. When you're done, just close the screen so that the other one comes back.
Okay. All right, now we're ready to go. Good morning. This is an update from probably about the last 6 to 8 months, and it also rolls into some time that when Brandon Ransom was here as the Parks Director also. This year, along with many things that are going on with the Cascades, we had a unique opportunity to partner with Susan Weibel from the library out at Grass Lake. She was part of the Michigan Historic Preservation Network tour that occurred on May 16th, and for the first time ever, the Cascades were fully open 2 weeks earlier than normal. We were able to host about 20 to 30 people of about 300 to 400 that came in and toured many of the historic sites of the Jackson County area, but also too, we had a unique opportunity. Sperry Sparks came into my office, and we sat down for about a half hour and talked, and I said, how would you like to be part of this tour? So he got a chance to shine along, speaking about his grandfather and the museum, and he was in his glory when he was in the museum, I can tell you that much, talking about all the artifacts and everything. So that was unique for the first time ever. We partnered with the Jackson Area Career Center and also to the Parks Association to make sure all the flowers were planted and the whole place was up and running and ready to go earlier than normal. We are now working as a champion team to start fundraising for the renovations of the Cascades. I drafted up an RFQ for the demolition of the wall and presented it to Mr. Overton and Mr. Brown and Rick Shealy for review. So we're moving forward with that. We've met a couple times, and believe we have an excellent team to move forward with doing the demolition and at the same time too starting the fundraising procedures. We also partnered with Experience Jackson, and they funded an opportunity to do some cleaning and also some new costumes. Through a sponsorship, they gave us $2,000. Big Bird is starting to molt, so we need some new costumes, and at the same time, too, replacing with some new characters. So we'll be moving forward with that with Family Night. And also, too, one of the items, too, that they gave us, is they also funded a full-page ad in the Michigan Trails magazine that's available through Experience Jackson. They produce 600 copies. We distribute them out throughout the county, but also the majority of them are being distributed when they go on site for certain special events, and they're able to promote all the inner biking and hiking trails throughout the state. We also just drafted an RFQ for the qualifications necessary to move forward with the master plan for the fairgrounds, and we're looking forward to that opportunity. This year is 161 years old, or 161 years young, however you want to look at it, and it'll be a new opportunity to move forward with a lot of the renovations there also. Earth Day. We partnered with the Jackson Conservation District, Dahlem, and many other organizations. We had 22 vendors on site, approximately, depending upon who you listen to, somewhere between 200 and 600 people there, probably closer to 4 to be honest with you, but it was a great event. It's always hosted right at the shelter, right across from where the Manor House is. The bottom left-hand corner, that's obviously me to the left, and that is Mike Hoskins, who's playing the bear, Smokey the Bear over there, and one of the Boy Scouts were there also. Coming after this presentation here, I'll be asking for the approval to move forward with the purchase of what we call the Flannery property. It's 4 parcels. We still need to have the split of one of the parcels with the city for the owner who wants to maintain the rights to the home and some land. But then we'll be moving forward with applying for development grants through the state and other local agencies. This is the picture right here of the front of Kibbe Road where it will exit from the intercity urban trail and coming out, and it will run along the Kibbe Road in some fashion where the X's and the crosses are, down Kibbe Road and connect up with Sparks Park. That'll be occurring hopefully for grant writing and grant acceptance sometime in the beginning of 2015. Another one. Commissioner Alexander, myself, and many others have been painstakingly working through the Lime Lake breach. This is what it looked like back in 2012, around February or March. It was repaired with a fill of marl from the area. However, the winter and then the spring rains of that year destroyed it, and it looks like this now. So we're working with Paul Renschler from ASTI Environmental, and also to the DEQ to do some more permanent style repairs that hopefully will be more effective. We're working with the residents, all of them, of North Lake, and also to the Sheriff's Department, and making sure that whatever treatment we do to this area won't be vandalized or won't be treated in an improper manner. Signage will be going up, and potentially, if necessary, cameras. We've had some issues with people working on this area, but also to working with some of the culverts that go under the roads and under the trail, trying to dam them up, and at the same time to retain some of the water in North Lake. So we're working basically with all the areas to try and make sure this is correct. It is a very, very unique fen. Central Michigan University is coming in a couple weeks. We partnered with them to start doing another study of the soils, the plant life there, and also to the water quality of that area. So that'll be a unique opportunity to get that information back and then be able to support the restoration of that fen. The Park Association that we have always been with for many years, each year gives us X amount of dollars what we request. Many times we'll be replacing buoys at the swimming areas, picnic tables. This is a backup lighting system for the falls. If a system goes out, we've got the money and the time to be able to put it back in action, so those are the lights and the computer controls. This is a swing set that was put in 2013 over by the ice cream shop in the Cascades area. Not only the swing set, but also the ground treatment was fully funded by the Park Association. And each year they give us about $3,000 to go throughout the play equipment throughout the park district, the park areas, and refill all the playground areas with new softball. Jack, one of our technicians, McLuhan, just got recently certified as a certified playground safety inspector, so he'll be going through each year annually. We're required to inspect each of our playgrounds. And this year we did have a bad winter, and the posts that are along the Falling Waters Trail are actually inserted into a tube into the ground, and we have to remove them in order to plow and or access each of the sections that are along the Falling Waters Trail. This was designed in-house by our staff to replace that. This year, with the amount of winter that we had and the temperatures dropping, way below zero, those posts froze in the ground. So it took a lot of effort to get those posts out. We did by hot water, salt, and any other means that we can think of. This is a collapsible ballard. It'll be put in the center of the trail to allow access for emergency vehicles and for our crew, but at the same time to be able to be removed and flipped up and down as we need to in order to plow the trail during the winter. That Joss Hunt, along with Tim, past mechanic, designed that a few years back, but we are going to be working on the fall, and the Falling Waters Trail will be funding this also. Another nice one. At Swains Lake, the Park Association funded 100% this cabin. It's a 10 by 20 cabin. We're in the process now of remodeling and putting in beds and bunk beds inside of it. It'll be renting for approximately $65 a night at Swains Lake. It sits on Lot 1 and overlooks the lake right in front of you. This is the truck that brought it in. Our guys poured the pad, and we'll be doing the landscaping around the perimeter, and they've done all the work on the interior remodeling of it also. Clark Lake, we partnered with several people. Commissioner Elwell was kind enough to give us a contact with the state parole office, and some of their parolees and volunteers, as they call them, were able to come in, and they did a full cleanup on Clark Lake, all the leave material, all the beach area. They moved on to Vandercook and did that location also, and this week they'll be over at Vineyard, so I appreciate that contact. Steve is a great guy. And Mr. Duckham, Commissioner Duckham, was kind enough to donate a dumpster, and all that debris and material were put in there. We partnered with Columbia Township. Also, we'll be remodeling some of the picnic benches out there, some of the sitting benches out there. This is not only one park that we're doing, but we'll be partnering with other areas to be able to spread the wealth, in so many words, to be able to work and upgrade some of the facilities. And lastly, the Golf Ad Hoc Committee, we met multiple times to look at how we can rejuvenate the golf course and put it back into, as Commissioner Way would say, back as it was in the 70s. We did, as you all know, you approved the opportunity to purchase a liquor license. We're in the process of doing that. That's moving forward very, very nicely. We've been doing some upgrades to the course itself. A lot of the old stumps that were there are now being cut down. We need to grind them down from cosmetic purposes. And also, too, we're now purchasing a piece of equipment that's called basically a green sweeper. my learning curve has been such that the greens are number one priority on a golf course, then the bunkers, then the fairways, the tee boxes, and the roughs. So the more playability, the more quality you have in your greens, the more productivity you'll have, and at the same time, too, hopefully you'll have more golfers coming out to use the course. So we're moving forward with that initiative also. So that's it for the last 6 to 8 months. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thanks, Scott. Oh, Julie.
Thank you for that thorough report. Would you please share with the board the family that approached Parks and Rec at the last month's meeting and their request for memorial
Oh, yes.
area?
Yeah.
So that they're informed?
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was my mistake. I should have shown it. The Dunnigan family came to the Parks Board last meeting and asked, with the passing of Karen, to have a memorial constructed in her honor and her legacy with the community here. We are moving forward with that. The park approved it. We're working with the family to erect a memorial, a bench-like setting right at the intersection of Kibbe and Denton. They'll be flanked by 3 Bradford pears, columnar pears behind that, and their hope is to have that erected and up and going for before the 4th of July weekend. So we're very honored to have that opportunity to do that with them.
Any other questions or comments? Thanks, Scott. You've got the Flannery property.
Yeah, before you, last Park Board meeting, the Parks Board approved the movement forward and bring it to the commission here for the purchase of the properties, which we call the Flannery property. We still need to do the split with the city. The Flannery family wants to keep the home and some acreage there, and Adam and I are working on that together. So it's my recommendation to the board that they approve the purchase agreement for those 4 properties.
Looking for a motion? Motion and support. Scott, I just got one question on the, there was a map that was provided, I think
Yeah.
it's here in the, and when you look at the 3 parcels, there's a gap between 2 of them.
Is it the thin piece or the big?
Yeah, the thin piece there at the bottom.
I believe if I'm correct, that's part of the Jackson Public School property.
Okay.
We own that property to the left of the darkened area.
Yep.
So we'll be all of that area that will allow us to make that
Okay.
connection.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thanks, Scott. Under Sheriff Cool, I think you're up.
Good morning. The item you have before you is a Department of Justice grant and a subsequent purchase jointly with the City of Jackson for what we refer to as the Milo range system. I talked about it on Friday. Basically, it's a use of force simulator. It's portable. This is going to be purchased with justice assistance grants. We do need approval of this from from this board, and we'd like to move forward with that purchase. The sister document went before the City Council, and as I understood, was approved on their behalf for the city's end of it.
Looking for a motion? Motion and the support. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thanks, Under Sheriff.
Thank you.
Ruth, good morning.
Morning. Let's see if I can get this working here. Just a moment, let me get my report up here.
Which one do you look for there?
Right there.
Got it?
Yep, I think so, yep. There we go. All right. In your packet, you have the full annual equalization report for your reference with detailed data on each township. I won't go over all that with you. That's there for your information. But next, we have the biannual equalization department report. As far as reporting activity, we have our regular reports that are due every year. The 24 and the 28 have been filed with the state. The 28 is the millage reduction fraction, and I will say that this year we had a much more difficult time than normal with the millage reduction calculations, and that had to do with the old pervasive assessing system had some bugs in it that had to be worked out. It took about 3 weeks when it should have taken just a couple days. We were kind of back and forth with a lot of assessors, but we did get it straightened out. It has to do with additions and losses, and basically we had 15 units that were showing they needed a millage reduction in the beginning, some of them very significantly, but it was because of the program, not because of the actual, numbers. So once we got it corrected, we were back down to 3 or 4 that needed a millage reduction this year. The personal property loss this year has been calculated and sent out. That's been kind of a work in progress. We've just gotten stuff from the state as it comes along. But all the schools did need that information. We didn't have many units that actually showed a loss. Jackson County did not show a loss, mainly because of increase in personal property from Mackey and some of the utilities and whatnot. The 4029 is in your packet, and that will be the last order of business, and that needs to go out for the summer tax bills. PRE filings from local units are coming in, and the 4026 will be filed, as well as the interim report. Our major projects this year are, of course, we took on Norval Township this last year. We hired a new appraiser. We ended up promoting from within, so our assessor for the 2 townships is Jessica Kassler. She's been with the county for about 7 years, I think. And Kyle Ogle from the city was brought on as a beginning appraiser. She's working in the agricultural appraisals and is doing a good job and getting acclimated well. We had some omitted property filings with Parma Township that there's about 120 of them. It's pretty difficult to get the calculations done because of the lack of information out in Parma from previous years. So we've kind of been back and forth with the STC. We did have a filing for dismissal of those, but I went up to a State Tax Commission hearing a couple of weeks ago. They do not want them dismissed. They want us to go ahead with them. So we're working on those as well. I'm currently having meetings with assessors, supervisors about the collaboration grant. We've had meetings with IT and with GIS, and we're trying to put together, a collaboration that would afford the townships the opportunity to upgrade to the .NET system instead of their current pervasive system, which is, losing ground yearly technologically. Getting further and further behind, causing us more problems, causing them more problems. So we're working on that. You can see from our study and appraisal activity, this year we're up 285% from the low in 2009. There were 6,270 sales or parcels that were visited this last year. Land divisions are up 115%, deed processing up 26%, so it's been busy. These are the top 20 taxpayers in Jackson County. I did make a change this year to kind of correctly display these. The ones in yellow are IFTs. They only pay half millage, so they're on here at half value. Alphagen and DPC Juniper are in the REN zone. They're on at 75% this year. New additions right now are Enbridge and West Bay Exploration, all of the oil exploration that's going on countywide, and Enbridge is putting a pipe through the north part of the county. I did notice that the DPC Juniper and Alphagen were reversed. Alphagen's a new entry, and it was just slid into the wrong spot there, so that should be number 4. Average value of homes in Jackson County, you can see that a few of the townships still are, haven't quite bottomed out yet. Leone, Henrietta, and Jackson City are still lowering values a little bit. Everybody else is kind of on the upswing. So for the most part, you can kind of see where 2008 was the high overall for Jackson County, and 2011 was the low overall. These are just 1-year, 10-year comparisons in assessed value. You can see that we're still down about 20% in assessed value from our high in 2007. In taxable value, we're down about 6.6% from our high in 2009. This is just a graph that shows kind of assessed value and taxable value and where we are today. And these are the actual numbers for ad valorem property. You can see how personal property is 11% here, residential is 65%. When you go into special acts and you include IFTs and that kind of thing, personal property is 13% of our tax base and residential is 63%. So that's kind of a highlight of the equalization report. And the last order of business is approval or referral on to the full board of the 4029, which is our requested tax levy for the year. It's the same as last year. Nothing has changed. We did not have a millage reduction fraction. So this is here for your approval.
Thanks, Ruth. Any questions? Dave? Motion? Okay, yeah. Motion and support to approve the L4029 to send it on to the full board for approval. Any additional questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Friend of the court?
Good morning. Before you, I have a motion to retain the 4 existing full-time caseworker positions currently scheduled to be abolished and replaced with 4 full-time enforcement specialists through attrition. And then I also have a request to reclassify 2 currently existing vacant positions, 1 full-time and 1 part-time, and upgrade them from a grade 6 support position to a caseworker position. The last time I met with you, I had brought up that we had developed some focus groups through our HPO performance trainings, and we identified one of the major issues that we had in our office was the increasing volume of our support reviews that the caseworkers handle. This motion before you is actually a product of the focus groups. The workforce distribution group came to me and presented a possible solution to the increasing number of support reviews and the workload problem, and this was actually what they came up with. So I want to give credit where credit's due. They did come up with this idea, and I fully support it. To give some background, back in 2007, the prior administrator requested a reorganization of the front of the court office. At the time, we had 9 full-time caseworkers. They were specialized. They each had their own specific tasks that they were responsible for doing. Through that reorganization, the idea was to eliminate all the caseworkers and replace them with enforcement specialists. Those are grade 9 positions from grade 11 positions. We had 4 caseworkers that were currently employed. There were 4 vacancies due to retirements. So what we ended up with an interim structure was 4 caseworkers, 4 enforcement specialists, and then the remainder of the team. Since that time, the State Court Administrator's Office also conducted a management study of our office and found that we had referees and other higher paid staff doing tasks that the caseworkers could be doing, such as support reviews, presenting in court, those types of things. So their recommendation to us was to reassign some of the tasks that we had our referees doing to allow them to do more quasi-judicial hearings, things like that. So through that change, and then as well as some of the other technological changes, we've now assigned duties to the caseworkers that the enforcement specialists cannot do. It's not within the scope of their job description. We've talked to HR about those types of things, so it's creating a significant problem in that when the 4 caseworkers that we currently have, if they retire and we replace them with enforcement specialists, we will quite honestly, have no one capable of doing the work because the enforcement specialist can't do it within the scope of their job description. So that's the piece where I'm asking for the preservation of those 4 casework positions, because if we eliminate those and replace them with enforcement specialists, we won't have staff to do the work that we're mandated to do. The second part of this, dealing with the upgrade, that's specifically related to some of the volume changes and technological issues that we're having with our office. We created a situation where we have so much customer service and data entry staff, and they're doing a fantastic job, but now we don't have the staff that can do the work that is at the caseworker level. So we have clients that are calling in saying, well, what's the status of my support review? And we have plenty of staff that can tell them what the status is, but we don't have the staff that can do the support review. So that's where we're looking to shift some of the bodies that are currently in our office to make them able to do more of the work that is where the volume is. We also have, as I stated in the background, the increase. We increased just this year alone 33% with our support reviews. As a result of that, we had to decrease how many support enforcement hearings we were hearing because we needed to account for the volume. So we're having to rob Peter to pay Paul, so to speak, with what our tasks are for our caseworkers so that we can get the work done. The state has also provided us with more technological advancements as far as reports, proactive measures, things like that that we can do at a caseworker level. We're finding that if you take a proactive approach through enforcement, while it takes longer initially to work, it has long-term effects and benefits as far as enforcement goes. So if you catch cases early and identify them, get the payers on track right away as opposed to waiting until they're $10,000, $20,000 behind in child support, we're more likely to get them engaged in their family, engaged in supporting their children, and get things under control for longer-term effects. So that takes longer to initially do, which is why we also need the upgrade of those positions. The last piece of that is also that the state is migrating from Data Warehouse 1 to Data Warehouse 2. For most of us, that doesn't mean a whole lot, but that's where the federal government gets our reporting numbers for our incentive payments. Preliminary reports show that those reports are going to result in lower numbers for us and as a state as a whole. So we've been tasked with cleanup reports, enforcement initiatives, all these things to try to get our numbers back up. Those are not things that the grade 9 and below staff can do entirely. We need more casework staff to be able to do those things. So in order to offset what's already possibly going to affect our numbers, we need to increase the bodies that can do that work. From a financial standpoint, we're looking at trying to get this upgrade done effective July 1st so that we can get a head start on things before the next budget year. We're hopeful that with the current vacancies that we have, which is one vacant full-time SSU position as well as one vacant part-time account position, we can fill those positions right away with caseworkers. Any questions?
Sarah, the financial impact is what, 4,000 and change this year and 16,000
year.
for 15?
Correct.
And you're hoping to offset that with the incentive improvements? Is that the hope?
Correct.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Mr. Chairman, did you have a question?
If you can't offset that, are you willing to remove these positions and go back to a reduction in staff? Because it took us a lot of work with your department to get the reductions in place in 2007 because of the 1/3, 2/3 contribution of dollars.
Right.
It's quite expensive for the county to have gotten here, and I'm a little concerned that we're going backwards. And do you have a trending that you have more caseloads, or is it like you're saying things are reducing also?
No, the trend is that things are increasing. I wouldn't support reducing those positions back down to the grade 6 because I think we're finding that with a grade 11 position, they can do everything that a grade 6 position can do. They can do everything that a grade 9 position can do. As we continue to shrink the front of the court, we're finding that we're needing people to do higher volume, more things, assist with other departments as it may be. The higher pay grade that we have for that individual, the more they can do to offset the smaller office that we have. So I don't know that would be the best solution. We're also finding the financial impact from that change and that reorganization has negatively impacted our office. The cash contribution from the CAP, the central services, as the front of the court shrunk, then our contribution lowered each year. So although it's counterintuitive to actually increase that money, you actually have to grow the front of the court, which I know none of us have that kind of money to make us, twice as big, but that's what impacts that. So the smaller we get, the more of a financial hit we take from our funding. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Sarah, how much of a lag is there on the incentive numbers and pay? For instance, 6 months from now, would you be able to tell us how it's going if the incentive pay has stepped up?
I don't know. I can't answer that for certain. I can look and in 6 months definitely report back if I am able to get that information, but I don't know for sure.
Any other questions or comments? Looking for a motion, this does go to the full board.
I'll make them support.
Motion and support. Additional questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
JCDOT, the abandonment of an alley.
Good morning. Every once in a while, we get these petitions. Property owners want to abandon an alley. This is a 20-foot wide alley in Henrietta Township. It's just west of Main Street or Coon Hill Road. And all of the signatures have been verified for authenticity. The filing fee's been paid, and we just want to recommend approval of this abandonment of that alley.
Motion and support. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Goes to the full board. Thanks, Joe. Catch basin cleaning contract for state trunk lines.
I'm not sure.
Michalski. Well, we have somebody coming up behind you. Bob.
Yeah, I'm deferring to the Director of Operations here.
Wise man.
Thank you. This is the annual bid for the state trunk line catch basin cleaning on the state routes. Basically, it's the same thing that we do every year. It's just we're asking that you award it to the advanced underground inspections. That it costs, I think, $64 a catch basin. This is routed through MDOT. They actually are paying for it. We're just a bypass for their contract.
So it's passed through and it's fully compensated, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Looking for a motion that does go to the full board. Motion and support. Questions or comments?
Have we used this company before?
No, we haven't. They're the low bid. We don't have anything against them, so, I mean, we need to
Do you
use the
check?
money the wisest.
Sure. Do you check resource references then on others that have?
Yeah, we haven't had any negative comments on them. It's a pretty cut and dry thing with an inspector going behind them anyway, so.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks.
Youth Center.
Good morning.
Jeremy, how are you?
My apologies for probably user error in getting my submission to you. Want to talk with you briefly about some of our stats. Besides the weatherman, it's very evident that the weather is turning better out there because our cases have increased. We have a lot of juveniles that are enjoying early morning activities, unfortunately. So our 24 residents in detention, our max is 24. Of those 24, we have 3 residents that are being waived to the adult court. We have 10 residents in our residential treatment program. We have 2 that are on the second to last phase of their treatment, homebound, where they go home during the week and stay with us on the weekend. And we did have 1 successful graduation this last Friday. We're very excited for this resident and the changes that he has made during the time that he was here with us. Our daily average population right now in detention is 22.2, and that's up from 19.8 in March. So even just those 3 months, we've seen an increased average. Average length of stay is 19 days. Currently, the average is 23.7 for boys, their duration, and then 15.6 for females. We had 197 admissions thus far into the youth center. Last time I reported to you, we had 70 for the year. Again, so we've seen a large increase over the last 3 months. 149 of them males, 48 females. The Youth Center leadership and myself, we have gone to Jackson City Police and worked with every single one of their shifts, reminding them our intake criteria, some of the process and procedures. We're doing a unique process with them when assaults or different charges that occur within the facility, and how we will submit those petition requests through them, and working with Lieutenant Hitt from the City Police. So we're just talking with them about those processes. We are in the process of working with the Sheriff's Department in Blackman Township, again, to go out and discuss, remind them what our intake criteria is, as well as if there's any questions and answer period. Our treatment program is working with their science teacher, and they've put in a garden out at the youth center, and it is flourishing. It's liking these warm weather days, and I'm looking forward to the produce that will come out. They worked with our kitchen staff to figure out what type of items to put into the garden to then be integrated into the food process as well. So we're looking forward to that. Then finally, last time I was here to talk to you regarding the Youth Arts Alliance, we are doing a JTV spot. They are coming out the 18th of June and doing some footage of what we are doing with Youth Arts Alliance. And then on the 25th, we will do the live event with some residents. And so look forward to invite you to watch JTV on Wednesday the 25th. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Jeremy. Commissioners, any questions? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for regular business. Under other business, we have the claims. Looking for a motion?
Move to pay the claims.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Other minutes are in the packet, as well as the July reporting schedule, which takes us back to public comment for 3 minutes. Mr. Gady.
I would just like to thank the commissioners and this committee for considering my request and making that appointment. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ames, are you going to speak?
I would like to.
Feel free. You have 3 minutes.
On the public hearing for the addressing at Clear Lake, addressing the street name at Clear Lake, that is going to the board for this June meeting, am I correct? Is that what we decided last time? I was out of town Friday. I got an email from Adam about resubmitting the board doc that I didn't do, that I didn't know about. My understanding was it was going to be handled in June. This process won't allow for the 10 days that Mike would like to give people for a public hearing on the notice. So my understanding was that it was going to the June board meeting.
Yeah, I would suggest getting with Mike and Adam offline.
Okay.
Probably would be the best thing.
Okay. I'm just, okay. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hearing none, we're adjourned.